Hello, McFluffy52 here, back with some more Phyrexia All Will Be One action, and today we're playing a Sultai fight rigging deck. So you may have seen a lot of people trying out fight rigging with the addition of the new creature from Phyrexia All Will Be One, Archfiend of the Dross. It is 4 mana for a 6/6 flyer, and it enters with 4 oil counters. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of the Dross, and then if it has no oil counters, you lose the game. And then it has this additional effect whenever a creature an opponent control dies, that its controller loses 2 life. So this is not only is it a pretty cool card, but the important thing is it works really well with Fight Ring, which is an enchantment from Streets of New Capenna, 3 mana, Hideaway 5. So when this tournament enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, exile one of them face down, put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then it says at the beginning of your combat turn, put a +1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. So the idea is we're playing a bunch of these 6 power creatures that we just need one +1 counter, and we can instantly get our Hideaway card from Fight Rigging. Now we're playing here a Sultai fight rigging deck, which is probably a little different than what you've seen most people playing. I think a lot of people have been playing Golgari fight rigging, which is black and green, but we're throwing in the Reservoir Kraken because it's really nice. It has Ward 2, making it hard to remove, and then we're throwing some extra fun, spicy card in here, Alchemist Retrieval. So this is an instant for 1 blue. It can return target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. The reason we're playing this is it also has this cleave where you can get rid of you control and you can just bounce whatever the opponent plays. So for 2 mana we can bounce whatever the opponent plays, but for 1 mana we can bounce whatever we play. So this can be helpful for protecting our things, but most importantly, it can help us bounce the fight ring back to our hand. So after we get the hideaway card, or if we have a bad hideaway card, we can bounce it back to our hand, play the fight ring again, and get the hideaway and the free spell again. So that's the idea with the deck. Let's go hop in some games. There'll be a full deck tech at the end of the video, so stick around if you're interested in that. Also, consider subscribing if you're interested in more Phyrexia or Magic the Gathering Arena videos. And we're going to be trying to make more decks with the new Phyrexia cards. But yeah, Fight Ring can be a ton of fun. You can have some really explosive turns, and then all else fails, you're just playing a bunch of big bodies. The only downside is sometimes you end up with these really expensive cards in your hand that you can't cast. So I tried to balance it all out in this deck, and we'll see how we did. This hand's not too bad. We've got some ramps, so we can play the Archfiend of Dross on 4. We don't have any of the fight readings, so that is a bit of a downside, but don't mind this hand that much. We'll be playing the Llanowar Waste here, so we can play our Armored Scrap Gorger. Opponent's playing mono green, but they have nothing on 1 or 2, so they're not that aggro. Or they're not that mono green. Sir, are you a ramp deck? I'm so confused. What's going on? We will find out here shortly. Let's go ahead. We'll play Reservoir Kraken, I think, because this has Ward 2, and I'm afraid of interaction. Well, actually, it's a green deck. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid of interaction. What are they going to do? Counter my spell? Bounce it back to my hand? Kill it? They're playing green. Green doesn't have any sort of spell like that. Alright, we'll go ahead and just slam down another Archfiend and swing in. And drop the land. Don't forget to drop your land. Venerated Rot Priest. Mono green toxic. Is that your grand plan? I don't think that's a good plan, sir. I'm not gonna lie. You are looking pretty dead here very shortly. We're gonna go play down the Phyrexian Flesh Gorger just so we can keep the beatdown going. And then we'll go ahead and swing in with our 2 Archfiends. Damage. Alright, we got 2 more turns before one of our Archfiends makes us lose the game. Or, we have actually this next turn coming up, and our opponent concedes. Yep, that's the big beatdown style of this deck is These Archfiends are so good. They might be 4 mana, which is more expensive than Shakedown Heavy, but whenever the Shakedown Heavy attacks, the defending player may instead choose that you draw a card and then Shakedown Heavy gets untapped and it doesn't do any damage. Or it's removed from combat. So this can make it really hard to actually kill your opponents with like the beatdown style of Shakedown Heavy. But these Archfiends, they leave. There's no funny business with these Archfiends. They hit. And they're flying. They're a pretty good card. And then another thing that I forgot to mention is not only are we playing the Alchemist Retrieval to like balance our fight rings back to our hands so we can try and cast them again and get even more value out of them, but we're also able to bounce our Archfiend if we need to. If the Archfiend is going to make us lose the game, we can bounce the Archfiend, and that should hopefully save us. Haven't had to do it yet, but oh boy, this hand's not bad because of Gwenna. Gwenna is really good in these decks because she can add 2 mana in any combination to spend this to cast creature spells, and then whenever you cast a creature spell with 5 power or greater, you may untap Gwenna and put a +1 counter on it. So this can allow you to play out like several of these 6 power creatures in a single turn because Gwenna is just untapping for 2 mana. Or tapping and then untapping for 2 mana, which is nice in this deck. Only have 2 of the Gwennas though, I think, because they're legendary. We don't have any blue here. Opponent goes first though, so we do get a card draw, so we might as well just go ahead and try and keep this, I think. Play the Lanomar Waste first, maybe, just so that we have the dual land out there, even if it's a shock land. Opponent playing Jetmirs and a Plane, so they're playing Naya. Naya or enchantments? It's not a good hand at this current moment. We're running we could really use a land. It might be worth cutting a creature here in the deck for a land, but we'll talk about more about the potential changes, I guess, at the end of the video. Review what might be good options. Now this is about as bad as it gets. Okay, well in this case we're gonna go ahead discard. We'll discard a Reservoir Kraken. Though we can honestly discard the portal because that thing's never coming down. But if we do get a portal down, we get to reanimate. That's why this is one of the big spells for our fight reading to hate, is because at the beginning of your upkeep, target creature card from your graveyard, or put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Opponent is playing a 4-color deck, because they got everything but blue so far. Alright, we've got the God Draw. No lands in 4 draws, is it? Because they win, we drew. They win, we drew. They win, we drew. Like, they have 5 lands, but that's because they ramped into one with the Architect of Restoration. This is a pretty good game. Alright, now we can try and play a bloody card. Alright, that'll allow us to double spell here, which will be good. Because then we can get an Archfiend down, potentially. Or we can just get nothing down. The opponent had an ossification waiting for us. Classic keep 2-lander get turbo punished, even if like our opponent was going first, which gives us another draw, which makes keeping a 2-lander a little less worse. Alright, opponent, you could have just swung in. Oh, that's unfortunate. No lands for us. Maybe we should cut one of the big things for a land, but at the same time, you can have as many lands in your deck as you want, and there will still be games where you you can't find any lands, and then there will be games where you draw like 50 billion lands and nothing else. So that is one nice thing about fight reading is like not only do you get a free spell, but it's also a bit of like card advantage in the sense that you dig 5 cards deep for your free spell. That's assuming you can actually get a free spell. I'm gonna go ahead and mull this hand. I've had enough of this bullshit two-lander keep nonsense. Opponent. Double Port of Phyrexia is what makes this hand particularly bad. This hand is still horrible, but... Oh, we have at least a Flesh Gorger we can play. Ooh, we can play a Scrap Gorger. It's actually kind of good. I have to shock myself to play a Scrap Gorger. Or use the Pain land, rather. Not exactly a shock. Oh, the Forge is not good for us. Well, it's actually not the worst. We have some decently bodied creatures. But we don't have any way of getting rid of... Actually, we do have a way of getting rid of the Forge. We have Alchemist Retrieval. Return target non-land permanent. So, once it gets big enough, we can just bounce their Forge. No tax, end turn. We have the Shakedown Heavy here. Double Forge. Who's been talking about this Forge? Why are so many opponents playing it? I don't appreciate it. Please attack in so I can life gain. You evil. Oh my god. Oh no, it's a Forge deck. Just a full-blown Forge deck. We can't do anything about the Forge, unfortunately. Actually, that's a lie. We can bounce one of the Forges. Which we might go ahead and do here. We should probably do it on our turn so that they have to... They don't have a protection spell. They're playing green, so they could have Tamiyo Safekeeping, which gives target permanent hexproof and indestructible, and you gain 2 life. Yep. Go ahead, block this one. Fight reading would be real good right about now. No way they have that many thirsting roots. We're 1 turn off of casting Toxtrol here, so we're just gonna go ahead. At this point, I don't know if we can really block much, so we're gonna just go ahead and go on the swings. Granted, we could have held the Scrap Forger back, but it would die to blocking something. Okay. Well, they don't have any counterspell magic open, so we'll just go ahead and play this out, I think. Opponent allowed us to draw a card. Titan of Industry. That will actually remove the Regress Forge. And then we can play Toxtrol out as well as another big body. Because Titan says destroy target artifact or enchantment. Though the way they're looking at it makes me concerned that they have Serum Snare, which is a bounce spell that proliferates. So it's not looking like that's the case. I think we'll be fine here. We got the Titan coming in. Titan can gain us some life and also do some serious... Archfiend of the Dross is actually secretly really good against this matchup because whenever a creature opponent control dies, they automatically sack themselves at the end of their turn, so they do die. They lose 2 life. So I think we might actually just win here. That's crazy. Alright, we're not really going to be doing any blocking is the plan. We'll go ahead and put a +1 counter on the Archfiend. We should have put it on the Shakedown Heavy. It's fine. Do you have a bounce spell? I'm going to punch you in the face, sir. My goodness, I hate blue. I could have put it on the Shakedown Heavy, but they just bounced the Shakedown Heavy is the thing. Okay, next turn we kill him. Do we survive to next turn? We don't need to actually block here. They only have one blue mana open. Yeah, we're just not gonna block. We'll play Toxel out, and then we'll put a counter on Shakedown Heavy. That should deal with the full potential of them bouncing something. I think that works. But then are we dead? Do we want to bet whether or not they have a 1 mana bounce spell is the problem. Okay, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna play down the Archfiend of the Dross. We're gonna put a +1 counter on the Shakedown Heavy, so at least we keep the Archfiend of the Dross. I think. No, we'll play this. We'll play this. Let's get our damn Titan. Let's get this damn Titan. They can't double bounce, so yeah, we get this. Titan Industry, we blow up their Urbrass Forge. Destroy target artifact enchantment, and then what is the next best thing? We could go ahead and gain some life, or we could go ahead and create a Rhino. I think a Rhino seems pretty nice. So life also might be kind of nice. I mean they have similar effects. We'll get a Rhino. Opponent gives up. That's fair. Sure. I had fun. Oh my goodness, those forges are such nightmares because not much. Well, that's a bit of a lie. There is some artifact removal, like Brotherhood's End destroys artifacts, and it's a really good card in the format right now because it's also a sweeper for like soldiers, but you can also use it to blow up Brecken or Bankbusters. But we are not running red. We are running green, so we could try and run artifact removal in green. Besides that, all we have is the bounce spells. We don't have a whole ton of bounce spells. Okay, we have a curve here, sort of. Armored Scrap Gorger into Flesh Gorger? No, we can't actually even do that. We have Mulligan. We'll keep this. Don't need this. No, I just realized we have no green sources, so that's... There we go, green sources. Or a green source. Old Darren Epicure. Playing Mardu tokens of some sort. Are you gonna cut down our Armored Scrap Gorger? Or are you gonna sacrifice your blood token? Vampires. I'm playing vampires. Whenever Evelyn or another vampire enters the battlefield, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once a turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you control, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast. Alright, Fear my giant flyer. Kind of nice that they discarded something for Scrap Gorger to gorge on. We'll go ahead and play out. What do I want to play next? Probably Reservoir Kraken. Do really like Reservoir Kraken. The Ward 2 is really nice. It also has Trample, which makes it like it's good to attack in. The only thing is like, as with like a lot of these creatures, because they're really high power, low mana cost, is that oh my god. Yes. Um is that you often run into an issue where well they put some extra text in there to make them bad. It's basically the idea. Next to combat, put a +1 counter on this bad boy. Get a free Flesh Gorger. Don't mind if I do. Alright. Now we could really use the opponent dead right now. Because we're running out of time with this Archfiend. We just need to survive 2 more turns though. And they need a blocker for it in the sky, so I think we still are in a safe spot. Opponent, do they have a way of gaining life? I don't think vampires, or I'm trying to think of any vampires that... Oh no, they have this. Sacrifice another creature you control and a blood token. Each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. There's Evelyn. They get to exile the top card of our library. I think we get to see what it is. A Titan. Holy shit, they're actually kind of close to casting it. Pass the attackers. Now, though, if they swing in, our Archfiend will put in some work. Yeah, what do I want to do here? I think I'm gonna go ahead, play another Archfiend, and swing in. Seems like the best plan. I'm surprised they didn't want to swing in with their Gobbo here, their Goblin Shaman, because if they kind of need to get enough mana to cast that Titan to provide a blocker in the air and gain some life. All right, well, the Archfiend just put it in work. We quite literally just won off the Archfiend. A 6/6 flyer that you have to kill can be really brutal. Because it puts the opponent basically on like a 3-turn clock in most situations. Because you're able to get a little bit of damage elsewhere, and then you just 18 damage over 3 turns. Not bad, not bad. But yeah, the Archfiend is such a good addition to this, because it's so much better than the... Well, I wouldn't say it's that much better than the Reservoir Kraken, but it's much better than the... This hand's strange. Yeah, I will say, going in Sultai, we do get some worse starter hands. Alright, this hand's good. But yeah, we get some strange starting hands. We can probably just play the Dark Slick Shores. Green modified. I do want to, one deck that I've been thinking about for a while now, but I haven't actually, like, worked on coming up with some. That's a cool, Fauna Shaman. And then we drew a Fight Ring, so we're close to getting the old Fight Ring. But Fauna Shaman I do like. It's not a very good card in some regards, but it's a card from Brothers War. Pay green. Well, it's a reprint, but it's a discard. Pay 1 green mana, discard a creature, and then you can search your library for a card. Search your library for a creature card. So you have to discard a creature, and then you can search your library for a creature card. And you tap Fauna Shaman and pay 1, but it allows you to search up like what you want, which is so nice. When I was trying to make a dino deck that worked, or like a ramp dino deck that worked, that was one of the cards that I tried out. Alright, Fight Ring, here we go. Uh, ooh. Titan Industry, sure. Free Titan is always pretty good. These players, I know that it's a free Titan, but like, we haven't like won yet. We still have to swing in with the Titan, and if you get like a few more land drops out, you got that, and you could ramp out other things. Like, I don't know. Maybe maybe Fight Rigging is actually quite good. I played this deck a bunch on the non-ranked ladder, so like that's where some of the win rate's coming from. If you're looking at like the upper right-hand corner at the end of these matches, usually I'll start by playing all my decks on the unranked ladder, and then for the videos, we'll go ahead, check them out on the ranked ladder, see how they compare and how they do. But dang, Nissa is it. We have 1 copy of Nissa in this deck as a nice thing to hit with Fight Rigging, but it's also, you can play it for down to 5 mana, which is kind of nice. But it's also gives us a little bit of flexibility in terms of our tournament types. So if we're going up against a more controlling deck that plays sweepers, having a Nissa on the battlefield is nice because planeswalkers are really good against sweepers. So yeah. Dreamroot Cascade will play first. Don't think it really matters. And we don't really have anything to target with our Alchemist Retrieval. Decius. I probably mispronounced that name. Mono Black. Alright, Scrap Forger is nice, though Scrap Forger might go ahead and die here, is the unfortunate thing. 2 lands, getting stuck on 2 lands is never fun. Got the Loris Avatar, or not Loris Avatar. Yep, it goes ahead and dies. So does my soul. Man. I think one genuine change I would make to this deck is go ahead and get yourself another land or two in this deck because we are running dry here a little bit too often. We do really need to hit that third land drop is our problem. Third land drop allows us to hit fight riggings as well as shakedown heavies as well as Gwenas, and not being able to hit that third land drop consistently is killing us, like murdering us. I'm gonna go ahead and discard an Archfiend of the Dross. Fun here, just discard the Tenacious Underdog because Mono Black is very strong. I mean, we've already lost this game. There is no getting back into this game because they're going to top deck a land, and they also have like 3 Invoke Despairs in hand. And we top deck a Scrap Gorger instead of a land. Man, these 2 land keeps. 2 lands in the top 10 cards of our library, is that normal? I mean, it's certainly not improbable, but we're not getting lucky. That's one thing. Okay. I guess they're a bit more of a zombie deck. Kind of confused, but they did not play Invoke Despair. They could equip this Transmogrian Crown. I don't want to hover it because I'm gonna wait till my opponents actually finish their turn, so I don't actually tell them what would be to do. Oh no, they found it. But yeah, Transmogrian Crown equips for 2 or 1 black, and then it gets +2/+0, and then whenever the equipped creature dies, draw a card. They might not actually need the cards, or like they don't have any plans to kill their champion of the parish, but it's not a bad way to do that. Let's get rid of your Tenacious Underdog. That is very nice. I guess we could have, no, we couldn't have done that sooner. Alright, we'll get to play out 2 creatures here, which is nice, if we can survive a turn. We get to play down a Shakedown Heavy and a Archfiend or a Reservoir Kraken, which is very cool. Are they playing Archfiend themselves? I would say this is a decent card to just add to mono black. Especially if you don't have like the cards for Obliterator or Shieldred. Tainted Adversary is going to be a done deal. Good game. Now we block with one of our creatures and then we have no way of getting back into the game. That was unfortunate. 2 lands. 2 lands and we were done. But yeah, let me know, what do you guys think about Fight Rigging? I really enjoyed this card when it was first introduced. It is very like spotty on like sometimes you don't draw it and then like sometimes it doesn't hit anything. Like you really have to brew a deck around it pretty hardcore, and then the deck itself has pretty like high variance in the sense that either you pop off or you don't do much sometimes. Man, man, oh man, these shocklands. Yeah, my lands are not the best. I will admit. I do not have the best lands. Well, I think I actually have quite a few, like a full sets of rare lands for this. Opponent is going to quote-unquote bolt the bird with an ossification. Go ahead and play Fight Rigging here because they'll have a harder time getting rid of Fight Rigging, I think. Though they could play out a Lorna the Third Path and then we're kind of shitted. We'll go ahead and hit a portal here, I think. That's our best bet, I think. That gives us recursion. Thank God no Lorna the Third Path. That would have been so brutal. Lorna the Third Path enters the battlefield, destroys target artifact or enchantment, and we would have been saying goodbye to our dear old Fight Rigging, which is about to get us a really, really nice card. And then we also have Alchemist Retrieval here to bounce the Fight Rigging into our hand. That's so good. And turn. So if they go for the Fight Rigging here, we'll bounce it to our hand. Hmm. We'll probably bounce it to our hand anyways, because then we can. This is the tech that we were talking about. Oh no, they exile it. That's so rude. White removal is so strong. Lay down arms, ossification, you name it. Do we still want to bounce it to our hand? I don't think so. But if our opponent goes for it, we'll definitely bounce it to our hand. They're reading the card. I think they're just very confused about what happened here. This is fun. Go ahead, take your Spirit Companion. I do enjoy that. Oh my, oh me, oh my, oh my. Alright, we'll play down the Shakedown Heavy, because if that dies, we get it back, and then next turn we can drop the Fight Rigging for more Fight Rigging. I'm surprised our opponent hasn't conceded, because we got like a portal turn 4, turn 5. That's not going to do it, because the portal will get it back from our graveyard. That's why we're playing portal. That is why we're playing portal to Phyrexia as one of the big hits. Ooh, fight rigging back in action. What do we get? What do we get for free? Gee, I wonder. Archfiend the Dross seems pretty nice. I'll go ahead and play this. Ow. We'll go ahead and attack. Spirit Companion can trade with Gathering Throng. Oh, they don't want to. Fair enough. Sanctuary Warden. That is a bit spooky, but we'll be fine. We didn't actually have anything to reanimate with that, which is kind of funny. Go ahead, play out this. Go ahead, exile destroy evil, it doesn't really matter. Then we'll go ahead and put a +1 counter on Archfiend. Going in with this, this, and then we'll hold everything else back as blockers. But Toxtrol with Archfiend here is going to be a sick combo, because Toxtrol gives a bunch of, well, we'll see it at the end of the turn. I won't bother explaining it because we'll see it. You go ahead, block it, that's fine, because you still lose those 2 creatures, and you lose 4 life. And we get 2 slugs. Oh, I love the cards I picked for, like, the top end of this deck. Eternal Wanderer, though, that's kind of spooky. But we have the portal going, so, like, we can just go ahead and keep a slug. I'm surprised they didn't keep our Archfiend. That would have been funny. Go ahead and grab ourselves from our graveyard a... What do we want? Toxtrol seems pretty cool. I do like me some Toxtrol. Go ahead, play this. While we're at it, bounce our Fight Rigging. Play our Fight Rigging again. Free card, free card, free card. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't mind that one. We'll hold off playing the Flash Gorger just in case they choose to sweep her again. Go ahead. Grab this, grab this. We'll go ahead, put a shield counter on target creature we control. We don't need that. Gain 5 life, create a Rhino. Sounds good. Wait, does this remove... You may remove a counter from... Wait, the slime counters actually work with Sanctuary Warden's attacks, I think. We can attack with this slug. See if they want to block. They probably do. This is kind of silly, but we can actually sacrifice a slug to draw a card. You can do this with Toxtrol, so if Toxtrol's gonna die, you can sacrifice Toxtrol. Though if the opponent chooses to swing in with Sanctuary Warden, we just block it with Titan of Industry, and then we get it with our own Portal of Phyrexia. Do you have another Eternal Wanderer? That's your only hope, I think. Hardly, though, really. Gathering Throng, yep. Enters the battlefield, you may search for your library for any number of Gathering Throngs in it. That's why they have 3 of them in hand, thanks to the first one they played. You can't attack in with your Sanctuary Warden, unfortunately. Well, I guess you can. You remove one of the slime counters. Draw a card. Or slug counters, I don't know what they're called. Wait, how did they do that? What? May remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker. Did they remove one from Eternal Wanderer? It's fine by us, because we'll go ahead, take your Sanctuary Warden. Kind of a big fan of it. Yep. Draw us a card. Draw a card. Play this. You know what? I like free cards. Let's go. Oh, this is too fun. Free fight rigging. Uh, yeah, I think that's fair, opponent. Oh man, I'm so glad that we actually got to show the power of Alchemist Retrieval with fight rigging. It can be kind of jank in your hand sometimes. Sometimes you're just using it as an expensive fading hope on the opponent. But sometimes you just get so much free value because you're just like, yeah, I can dig 5 cards deep for one of my for like a 9 drop that I can cast for free with fight rigging. Oh my goodness, that is peak fight rigging right there. That's my favorite fight rigging. And you can't do that with Golgari. I know like everyone's been doing Golgari because you're like you don't really need the extra color for to actually do a decent fight rigging deck, but you just miss out on the extra spice and fun. The extra spice and fun that is Alchemist Retrieval, like bouncing your fight rigging and then playing it again. Alright, this hand, we're gonna actually go ahead and keep this hand because it's not 2 lands. And that means we might actually get to play something. Play the tapped Dreamroot Cascade first turn so that we get untapped next turn, and then we can play Darkslick Shores and Scrap Gorger because this comes in untapped. If we control 2 or fewer lands. Land sequencing, one of the most complicated parts of Magic. Not really. I don't like that they're playing Azorius and they played Experimental Augury. That makes me concerned. Is that a Johnny? That is a cool sleeve. So I don't know what his like outfit is in reference to, so or maybe it's not in reference to anything, it's just a Johnny the superhero. He's got a big A. Poor Johnny got completed. I have to say I love Armored Scrap Gorger. This has got to be one of I know I say this about like every card. It's got to be one of my favorite cards. Uh, that's it's not like favorite in the sense that it does anything particularly amazing, but it's just like it's an uncommon that's like a 2 mana dork that competes with Llanowar Loam Speaker. So this card is as good, if not better, than Llanowar Loam Speaker, which is like a rare 2 mana dork that's a 1/3. The only thing that like makes Llanowar Loam Seeker better than this card is it has 1 power, but this can get up to 3 power, which makes it sometimes better. It's harder to achieve that, but and then also like this card, our opponent. I'm kind of concerned for our opponent. But also this card can exile cards from the graveyard. The alternative is Llanowar Loam Speaker can go ahead and animate one of your lands to make it a 3/3 haster. I'm gonna ahead keep on ramping. Do they have plans to go for the Scrap Forger? Or they have a counterspell? I mean, I don't really have anything else to do with this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and bounce it. Don't think it's necessary, but style points? I really don't think that was necessary, but at least we have another thing to play. I mean, I guess in some regard it's a good idea because now we have more mana, which we're gonna need here shortly. Double tap this for black, play out Archfiend. It untaps itself because it's 5 power or greater. Oh, we're a Mind Slice Apparatus deck. Okay. Maybe we hold off on the Scrap Gorger here because I'm a little concerned. We need to get this Portal to Phyrexia down so that if they sweeper the board, we can get things back. And we have, I think, 2 or 3 Titans of Industry in this deck that we could use to blow up that apparatus. But next turn we can play Toxtrol regardless because we'll have 5 mana from our lands and then 2 mana from Gwena. And we'll have 10 power swinging in because Gwen will get another +1 counter, and then we have 6 on the Archfiend. Opponent here, though. Thinking. They could farewell. I don't know if we really need to commit the Toxtrol. I don't think we will, is the reality of things, because there's no point in committing Toxtrol. It doesn't get us a kill sooner, and then if we commit it to the board, the opponent's going to sweeper like this turn or next turn, and just then we lose the Toxtrol for 0 value. Gotta play around those damn sweepers. But it's annoying because if you play around the sweepers sometimes, you're missing out on kill opportunity that you're going to lose later on because they'll draw into more action and everything, and like the Mind's Place apparatus is gonna ramp up. So if like we don't drop the Toxtrol and they have like just a removal spell, we're in a bad spot. But if we do drop the Toxtrol and they have a sweeper, we're in a terrible spot. They avoid sweepering, or they don't sweeper, which they could have potentially done. I think we're still not going to commit anything to the board here, and we're just going to go ahead and swing in. Having these creatures here, though, is a little strange, because Arching of the Dross makes it so if those creatures die, they lose 2 life. Don't tell them. Bing. Still get to do 2 damage through the chump. Yep. And, yeah, we'll just leave it there. They're going to sweeper. Because if they don't sweeper, they die, but... Or are they going to sweeper? They have Blast Zone. They might just put counters on it to try and get rid of the Archfiend. In that case, we can play a Toxtrol. Nope, 1 colorless. But White Sun's Twilight, there you go. They lose 2 life. They gain some life. Ay. White Sun's Twilight. Why are you so broken? Beginning to think this card might be too strong. Because we have no way to respond to all these mites unless we get this Toxtrol down. If we do get this Toxtrol down, though, we get to kill all their mites in one sweep. One sick go. So they probably have a targeted removal spell, unless they're playing just more so less interaction and more so just sweepers and Sunset Revelry type things. Draw 4 cards for 3 mana. Kinda gross. They could Sunset Revelry, or White Sun's Twilight again, is one of our current concerns here. If they had another White Sun's Twilight here, they sweeper again. Okay, they avoid doing it. Do you have Counterspell Magic? Please no. Mind's Place apparatus is so annoying to play into sometimes. Gonna kill her a Scrap Roger? Fine by us. Nope, it's a Syncopate. No point in playing that out. We're already done. The opponent has won. Unfortunate. Can't win them all. Can't win them all. Go ahead, play one more, see if we can have a better match to end on rather than just getting completely denied. Like if we committed the Toxtrol sooner, I don't think we would have killed them. Because we would have we'd have still done like the same attack and then they would have had basically the same response. We're gonna keep this hand and hope we draw into a green source. If we don't, we lose, but that's fine. We are good at that anyways. Jace. Opponent playing a 61 card special. 7 in hand, 54 in the deck, 61 cards. That's fun. Oh, shoot. I didn't pay attention who was going first. We're going first, so we might actually be in a quite bad spot. Nope. We just have the best draws ever. Let's go. Let's go. Tickle me Helmo. I get it. It's like Tickle Me Elmo, except for Helmo. Oh no. Okay, who's been playing Atraxa recently online? Because this is the second time I've seen some Atraxa type stuff. Ramping in multicolors. Into the Archfiend of the Dross. It's not too terrible. Scrap Forger gets a little bigger. Fun. We could have taken the Alchemist Retrieval to bounce right one fight rigging with the fight rigging, which would have been funny, but yep, this is looking like a multi-color deck with some ramp aspects. We got the Courtier's Briefcase, which is a treasure that creates a 1/1. Free Archfiend, not bad, not bad. Go ahead and no attacks, end turn. At the end of the turn, we'll go ahead and bounce the fight rigging back into our hand, and then play it again. Assuming our opponent does not have any good answers for our board. They could have, there's like 1 or 2 mass bounce spells in blue, but they only bounce everything besides like one thing. Or I think there's only like one actually. Like Whelming Weight? No, that's not it at all. It's 4 mana. 2 generic, 2 blue. I forget what it's called. Thrun. Thrun Gaming, I like it, I like it. Very interesting deck though, I will give them that. Was not expecting a Thrun. One oil counter. Alright. Free card. Oh man, I didn't really want to tap the Scrap Forger. Fine. Okay, that's not exactly what I was hoping to click, but you know, it's not a bad one either. Oh, that I didn't mean to double click there. I really didn't mean to double click because we didn't get to see the other options. Well, actually, if you go back and pause the video, you can probably tell. But dang, that was just such a good. That was a good hit regardless, because then we would have done 6 damage to them with the Archfiend's passive, like the third thing. Each creature loses. Whenever a creature opponent control dies, its controller loses 2 life. Um, and then we could have swung in with the Archfiend, so they would have taken 6 plus 7, 13 damage. They would make us draw with the Shakedown. And then next turn we would have been able to reanimate their Thrawn. Oh my goodness, fight rigging is good fun. And that's why we play Alchemist Retrieval. Alright, let's go ahead and hop into the deck tech. I hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay part. And let's go discuss all the specific cards and the numbers. Alright, so we're playing a full playset of Alchemist Retrieval because it's a cheap interaction spell. It's only 2 mana. So it's not the worst, and it combos really well with fight rigging. We got 4 Scrap Gorgers. This helps us fix mana in our 3-color deck, and it also helps ramp us to hopefully hit that 3 mana where we can actually play our Shakedown Heavies, our Fight Rigging, our Gwenna, to then play our 4 drops or whatever. So Scrap Gorger, really nice in this deck as well. Shakedown Heavy, the OG Fight Rigging combo card because it was released in actually the same set, and then it has 6 power, so you instantly can get Fight Rigging off, and it's 3 mana. This card is pretty nice. It's not great at attacking, but it can keep getting you value at least, and it's a decent blocker. 4 toughness isn't great, but if you get to pump it with Fight Rigging, 5 toughness is starting to get up there. Fight Rigging, obviously part of the name of the deck, right? and this card is amazing. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes you can see that we only have like lands and Archfiend in the draw, so that's maybe not the best hit. Sometimes you'll hit anything, you'll hit everything, or like you'll hit all lands and just an Alchemist Retrieval or something like that. Not exactly ideal, but the land, or when you do hit and you get that free Portal to Phyrexia, you get that free Nissa, you get that free Titan of Industry, or that Toxrill, or that Flesh Gorger. It's so nice. So do recommend trying out this card if you haven't tried it before, or if you have copies of it laying around, trying to play it some. It's good fun. Gwenna, we have two of them here. Fight Ring we have four of. Shakedown Heavy we have four of. Because this one only takes one black mana pip. It's the cheapest card to trigger Fight Rigging. And then, yeah, we want as much of those as possible. Gwenna we only have two because it's legendary. But it works really well with like Shakedown Heavy, Archfiend of the Dross, Reservoir Kraken. We can potentially play out like if we have four lands in a Gwenna, so like we play Gwenna one turn, and then the next turn we can drop a Shakedown Heavy, a Reservoir Kraken, and then like another Reservoir Kraken, or we can drop down two Shakedown Heavies and like a Reservoir Kraken or Archfiend, which is really nice. And then again, it fixes our mana, so adds 2 mana in any combination, so we can add 2 blue, 2 black, 2 black, or whatever, or multiple green for our Titan of Industry. Important to note, it does say spend this mana to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creature or a creature card, so we can't use it to cast our Portal of Phyrexia or our Nissa's, or our Nissa. That's why we're not playing that many Nissas, or we're only playing one Nissa here. Also, Nissa's legendary, so we don't want to end up hitting multiple of them. Since it's so expensive and everything, that's why we're also only playing one Nissa. In terms of the other cards, we got Reservoir Kraken. We're playing three of them because it's sort of the balance I struck. Okay, we have 24 lands. But yeah, Reservoir Kraken. We're playing three of them. I think it's a really nice card to trigger Fight Ring, and it gives us like a ton of cards to trigger Fight Ring, so we should always have something to combo with Fight Ring, almost always, which is nice. And then it's also a decent card on its own because we make our opponents potentially tap down their creatures instead of attacking in and giving us these blue fish that can't be blocked, and then we can put counters on these fish with the Fight Ring, which is nice. But yeah, at the beginning of combat it says if Reservoir Kraken is untapped, an opponent may tap an untapped creature they control. If they do, tap Reservoir Kraken, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token with this creature can't be blocked. So that's kind of the penalty you get for playing this big creature, but the reward is you still get the 6/6 Ward 2 Trampler, which will still trigger Fight Ring even if it's tapped. So I do really like Reservoir Kraken here, even if it's not like a great attacker, kind of like Shakedown Heavy. And then we have Archfiend the Dross, which is we already covered it here a fair amount. Those oil counters do give you sort of like a timer to count down on, but also your opponent's life total is probably going to be counting down as well. So there's a lot of pressure for the opponent to remove this. So I don't think you honestly have that much to worry about the oil counters. And then you also have Alchemist Retrieval. One card you have to watch out for when you're playing Archfiend of the Dross though is good old Glissa. Glissa, whenever she deals combat damage to a player, well, first off, Glissa's first strike and death touch, so it wins in basically every single combat, because not many creatures have first strike, and if they do, they might not have like that large of a power, and she has 3 toughness, so Glissa's really good at combat, and then so you're going to be chumping away your creatures and losing them. Eventually, Glissa might deal combat damage to you, and when she does, she can choose from one of these options to draw a card, lose a life, destroy target enchantment, so that can blow up your fight riggings, which is not as fun. And then lastly, she can remove 3 counters from target permanents. So she can go ahead and remove all your oil counters from Archfiend of the Dross, assuming your Archfiend has been around. Well, actually, even if you have 4 oil counters and then she hits in, she can remove like 3 of the oil counters, you're left with 1 oil counter, you remove an oil counter, and then if it has no oil counters, you lose the game. So if you ever have Archfiend on of the Dross on the battlefield, you don't want Glissa hitting you. That is one important thing to note. So just a small tip there if you're unfamiliar with those cards. And then lastly, we have our big bombs in our deck. We have Flesh Gorger here because not only is it a big bomb, it's a 7 mana, 7/5 menace, lifelink reward, pay life equal to its power. So it's a really nice body. It can give you some life against those more aggro matchups. But we can also prototype it out as a 3/3 with still menace, lifelink, reward, pay life equal to its power. So this creature is nice because it's got flexibility here, which makes it less of one of our like big bombs here that we have to worry about potentially accidentally drawing into like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, right? So this is a nice card regardless of where we are on our mana curve. Next up we have Toxrill. Toxrill the Corrosive. This card is a absolute blast to play with, especially when you get against those go wide decks, because you can just crush all the enemy's creature, because at the beginning of each end step, so both your end step and the opponent's end step, you get to put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. So all the opponent's creatures get another slime counter, and then creatures get -1/-1 for each creatures you don't control, get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them. So they grow smaller and smaller and smaller. And then when they do die, because whenever a creature you don't control with a black, or whenever you can, reading is hard. Whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. So this not only shrinks down the opponent's creatures when they die, you also get these 1/1 slugs, and then you can pay blue-black to sacrifice the slug and draw a card. Important to note, Toxrill is a slug itself, so you can also sacrifice Toxrill. If the opponent plays a sweeper and you have untapped black and blue mana, you can go ahead, sack Toxrill, and draw a card, which is nice. The Toxrill here, we're playing 1 copy again because it's legendary. We want to hit multiple copies, but Toxrill is so good. I really like the card. This is like one of those cards that's like a good reanimator target in like reanimator decks because it just has a ridiculous impact on the board. And it's a lot of fun. It works really well with Archfiend of the Dross as well, because it will shrink down and kill your opponent's creatures, and then Archfiend says whenever the creature your opponent control dies, they lose 2 life. So that's a fun combo. And then, important to note, there is another combo. There is... I can't spell... a horror in blue for 5 mana that also combos pretty well. Sludge Monster, we didn't play it in this deck, but this is something that you could consider if you're planning to build around Toxrill. Sludge Monster says whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a slime counter up to 1 other target creature. So you can put this on your creatures, the opponent's creatures. And then the second clause is the most important clause. Non-horror creatures with slime counters lose all abilities and have base power and toughness of 2/2. So the opponent has like, let's say they have, what is a really nice creature? Let's say they have, actually I don't know if this works against Glissa. I was gonna say they have a Glissa, but no. I think Glissa might be a horror, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's say, no, I think Atraxa is also a horror. Let's see, is Atraxa a horror? Horror. Let me be clear, I'm not saying something decent here. I guess Atraxa is not a horror. Yeah, Atraxa is a Phyrexian Angel, so let's say they have Atraxa on the battlefield. Atraxa, when you put a slime counter on her with a Sludge Monster, Sludge, she becomes a 2/2 with base power, or loses all of her abilities, and has a base power and toughness of 2/2, so she just becomes a static 2/2. I don't know if she loses lifelink, vigilance, death touch, flying. I think she does. I might be wrong. Because are those counted as abilities? I don't know off the top of my head. But she becomes a 2/2, and then if you have Toxtrol out there, though, she becomes a 1/1 because not only does she have a slime counter on her, making her a 2/2, but she also gets -1/-1 for each slime counter. And then at the beginning of your end step, when she gets another slime counter, she becomes a 0/0. So Toxtrol and Sludge Monster work really well because no matter the size of the creature the opponent has, they become a 2/2 and then like they'll die in like the next upkeep, or they become like a base power and toughness 2/2 and then they'll die in like two slime counters. So yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but that's the point I was trying to get across. Toxtrol works well with Sludge Monster. Anyways, Titan of Industry, we're playing 2 copies of this. You could probably bump it up to 1, maybe get rid of, or sorry, not bump it up to 1. You could probably get rid of a Nissa, maybe put in another if you don't have Nissa. But yeah, Titan of Industry is just really good. It's good for artifact enchantment removal, and then can just like save you in a bunch of different ways. Oh, they're removing all your creatures, put a shield counter on it. Oh, you're close to dead, gain some life. Oh, you need another blocker, create a 4/4. Oh, you need somebody to block a flyer. Well, it's got reach, and it's a 7/7. So, yeah. And then it's also got trample, so it swings in real nice. And then we have Portal. We saw Portal there go off quite a bit in one of those games. And Portal is so nice because it just reoccurs your threats. It also works as a sweeper, which is why we're kind of playing Toxtrol and the Portal here, is they're really good at removing the enemy's boards, and then they can also help you build your board. Portal gives us reoccursion for when the opponent eventually gets rid of our stuff, or like tries to pick off our stuff. We can just keep putting it back together, which is really nice. So that is my brew of Sultai fight rating. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, leaving a like. Helps out a ton. And have a nice morning, evening, night, afternoon, whenever and wherever you're watching. Ciao.